depends what you mean by ready. There are a lot of complex stages in vaccine development. First of all, we have to immunise healthy people between the ages of 18 and 55. We're looking at the safety of the vaccine as we go. We have used this type of vaccine many times before, so we're not expecting any surprises with this. It has a very well characterised profile of what happens to people after vaccination. They may have the usual things that you have after vaccination, your slightly sore arm, maybe a slight fever for a day or two, but that's all expected. And we will then increasingly immunise more people. We'll go into older people. We'll start to look at the safety and the immune response to the vaccine in older people as well as younger people. And that's important because it's the older population that we really need to protect with the vaccine. But for vaccines in general, you get not so good immune responses as the immune system ages. So we need to find out with this vaccine how good it's looking in old people compared to younger people just by measuring the immune response to the vaccination. And we're also going to be looking to see if the vaccine works to protect people and stop them getting infected. And the way we do that is that half the people in the trial will receive the coronavirus vaccine and half of them get something else. It's another vaccine that's licensed to protect against meningitis. And people don't know which vaccine they're having. And then over time, as people become infected, they all have symptoms of coronavirus, they will come to us to get tested, and we'll arrange to have them tested very quickly. And when enough people have become positive for the coronavirus, the statisticians will look at which groups those people were in to find out were they in the group that had the coronavirus vaccine or are they all in the group that had the meningitis vaccine. And obviously we're hoping for the infections only to happen in the meningitis vaccine group. And if that's the case, we will then be able to say that this vaccine works, at least in the age range that we've vaccinated, and we can then start expanding the studies and we can start to apply for emergency use licensure so that the vaccine can be used more widely.
It does sound to me from what you're saying that it's very unlikely that this vaccine will be ready for the wider population until the end of the year or thereabouts.
It's very difficult to predict, and there are two parts to that. One is demonstrating that the vaccine works. That's going to be affected by how much virus transmission there is at the time that we're doing the testing. So obviously we're seeing a drop in hospital admissions now, probably a drop in virus transmission in the community, and that's great for the population as a whole. It makes vaccine testing more difficult though, because we need a small number of people to become infected, and it is really a very small number, in order to know that the vaccine is actually working. We need a situation in which some people could have been infected but they weren't, and other people who had the other vaccine were infected. And so that might take a long time if there's not very much virus transmission. The other part is having enough vaccine ready to use. So in parallel with the clinical trials, what we need to do is start preparing to manufacture large amounts of the vaccine.
So people are talking about millions of doses being available by this autumn, potentially. What do you need from the government to ensure that happens?
What we need from government is support to help us accelerate the manufacturing. So there aren't any manufacturing facilities in this country that at the moment can make very large amounts of the vaccine. We have a pilot plant in the university that can make small numbers of doses, and that's what we're using for the first clinical trials. But we need to go to a much bigger scale. So those companies need to have new equipment, they need to have their staff trained in using new protocols and new quality control assessments, and all of that can happen. But the companies that we're going to be working with are going to need to stop doing what they would normally do and make this vaccine instead. So we need support for them all to make sure that that's done in a fair way while they're trying to do something that's really very important.
Now, if this vaccine works, then a fairly straightforward question, who owns it?
That's not really a very straightforward question. At the moment, the intellectual property is owned by Oxford University Innovation and a spin-out company from the university, Vaccitech, under the terms of the founding agreement for Vaccitech. That's now being consolidated into a single body. The discussions are underway at the moment. For the moment, though, what we're concentrating on is having vaccine available for public health use. The university isn't looking to make any money out of this. The university is looking to protect people's health and to do that as widely as possible across the world. It's not just for this country. We need to make vaccine for the world. And there are discussions going on about mechanisms for ensuring fair access to all the vaccines that work at a global level, which we will need to engage with. So for the moment, what we're concentrating on is getting lots of vaccine available provided that it does actually work and will protect people. We also want to work to look at the assessment of other vaccines which are in development, because it's my belief that quite a number of the vaccines in development will work, and they'll use different manufacturing facilities, and that's another way of getting lots of vaccines available for lots of people. In the long term, it may be a commercial product, it may be sold in future years, but that's not something that we're really thinking about at the moment.
Indeed, there are two things I think that come out of that. First of all, if this works, it's a British invention. Does Britain get it first before anybody else? But second, if it works and the whole world is watching what you're doing, do you think it should be made freely available to the rest of the world?
As I said, we're working on this as a public health project. So we want to make it available across the world, and we want to be able to make it available at a price that everybody can afford. It's not a particularly expensive vaccine to manufacture. We have to understand how we can cover the